Maybe it's going to get off. Great. So, konnichiwa. Hello, everyone. I'm Lori Sagawa, and I'm here on Friday, October 18th, 2024 at 4 o'clock Pacific time. So whether you're joining us now live or most of the people are watching it online later. So I'm so glad to have you here with us today. So I'm going to be speaking today about the Code of Bushido, but specifically about the late Senator Daniel Inouye and integrity. But he also demonstrated much more than just integrity. So we'll go over his lives, and I'll share with you the highlights and about the Code of Bushido. And we're going to have a great time. We're going to learn together, and you'll learn things that you may not have known about Senator Inouye. So we'll go ahead with the first slide, please. The first slide, it's going to be a short video. So sit back and enjoy this one. This was recorded about 3 years ago.
Imagine a world where we choose kindness over revenge, watch out for each other, and feel safe in our relationships and on our streets. I'm Lori Sagawa Whaley, your samurai strategist. I stand on the shoulders of my samurai ancestors, sharing with you the warrior's wisdom of ancient Japan. Today, with so much uncertainty, there can be a lot for people to worry about. People complain about lack of results, no respect, partners who betray, or running into people we just don't want to. We want to avoid conflict and then compromise by saying yes when we really want to say no. Or we become paralyzed and indecisive because of a lack of fortitude. This does not have to be the case. By deepening your foundation of the samurai principles, all these things in our world can be changed. In March 2011, Japan was devastated by an earthquake and tsunami. 16,000 lives were lost, villages ravaged. By August, $78 million of belongings had been recovered, washed up on the shore, and found in the rubble. The people of Tohoku, Japan returned all of the property to the rightful owners. Many attribute this resilience of the Japanese society to the moral principles ingrained through the ancient Code of Bushido, the way of the warrior. This code of ethics includes courage, integrity, benevolence, respect, honesty, honor, and loyalty. That's what made the samurai invincible, and it can do the same for you. Alexander Hamilton is quoted, "If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything." Embracing the Code of Bushido will allow you to become invincible. You will experience a sense of rock-solid life, one that is unshakable no matter what comes along. You can do anything. For example, one of my clients was unhappy in her life. Her husband had recently passed away, the children were grown, and she was dissatisfied at work. She had come to a major decision point in her life. During our conversations, as she found the solid foundation of courage, integrity, and benevolence, she was able to forge ahead, knowing that she would absolutely achieve her passion. Ultimately, she resigned her position, visited her birth country to be with her family, and pursued work in a lifelong passion for sustainable energy. Among the pantheon of warriors, the samurai is surely the greatest. The Code of Bushido can be your anchor in a sea of turmoil and your guide through the maze of life. If you would like to tap into time-tested, rock-solid principles and become unwavering and invincible, reach out to me. Remember, when you do the right thing, success it will bring.
Hope you enjoyed that. That was done several years ago, professionally, of course. And so that is me. I'm Lori Sagawa, and actually Lori Sagawa Whaley, and I'm a farmer's daughter. Can believe it or not, but this picture that you see here is probably I was about 4 or 5, and we had a friend who was a merchant marine, and when he came to our house, he was lived in Japan, but he was a very good friend of our grandfather. He came to our house and he always had something for us. And this is one time when he took our family photo, and they went to a studio or a porcelain, and I'm not sure exactly what they did, but they took our picture apart and they made these plates out of them. Of course, we don't use them, but I still have that today. So that's over 60 years old. But when my mom saw it, she goes, "Oh, George, come on, let's make it, let's have a business doing this." And she just was full of ideas. Everything she saw, oh, Ziplocs, oh, those are great. Those would be great in the United States. And later Ziplocs were here, and she wanted to buy a McDonald's, and she was just full of ideas. So I love my mom. She just was limitless about what could happen or the possibilities. And I grew up in the 60s, which was not a great time to be Japanese because the war was over, in the late 40s, and people did not have good sentiments even before and after the war. So my father said we had a lot to prove. We had a lot to be, we had to behave and get good grades and show that we're good citizens. So there was a lot of pressure on me um, to do that. And if I fail, it would be a shameful thing for the whole family. But I did. I was a good student, and I was a cheerleader. And then later on, I finished high school and went off to college. And so when I went to college, I took French in high school, and I didn't really like French. And so I thought, well, I can take Japanese and I can understand what my parents were saying to each other, but not to us. Of course, we understood words like baka, that means there's something missing up here. Okane is money, and takai means it was expensive. So that was about the extent of what I could understand. So I was really glad to find out more about the Japanese language. I loved it, and I still actually I study every week on Zoom, and we're going through a workbook, and we're all about the same age, same ability. So it's really great. I love doing it. But anyway, later, after I finished college and I got married, I worked at the Tacoma Art Museum. And because I was an art major, and my mentor told me, she goes, "Lori, you are so Japanese. You don't realize it." And I go, "Really?" She goes, "Yeah, I think you really ought to go there. You might really like it." And so as a young bride, my husband and I went to Japan, and we met our Japanese, my father's side of the family. That would be the paternal side, and that's Tsugawa. Gawa means river. Tsu, I believe it means mouth. And so we did meet them, and it was really amazing because I saw so many family similarities. I've heard the same chortle, the same laugh, same jovial disposition. So that was really wonderful. And I even saw one of my cousins, and then one of be kind of like I don't know, second cousin or something. I showed him a picture of the cousin here in the United States, and they looked so much alike. It was really uncanny. Both of them smoked and had the same mannerisms and were kind of slight and short. And so that was really wonderful. Even being raised an ocean apart and never meeting each other, there was still that family bond or family traits that came out. So that was really fun. And when we met them, it was in 82. Yes, 82, the fall of 82. And we went to we experienced Kyoto. And one of the first things that we did, if you want to, next slide, was when we met them, they gave us a copy of our family crest. And I thought, I didn't realize the significance of it until much later. But they gave it to us, and I go, "Oh, thank you. Domo arigato gozaimasu. Thank you very much." And I didn't realize how important that was. And so you see there that it has 3 stylized swords and 3 leaves that look like hearts. And the next thing we did when we were in Kyoto, Next slide is we went to the Jidai, oops, that slide's not there. We went to the Jidai Matsuri and saw Tomoe Gozen. And she was, I didn't know there were female samurai warriors. So we saw her in the parade. And so I forgot to put that slide in. But anyway, life goes on, raising a family. And then in 05 and 07, I was rear-ended twice and reading at a 7th grade level and chronic pain. It was like half of my body was so painful, it didn't feel like it was attached. So it was a very hard time for me, but I just went through and I said, I'm going to overcome this because who wants to be reading at a 7th grade level? So I didn't. And what I did was researched, found out from that last slide, you'll see that our crest is part of the samurai lineage of ancient Japan. So I knew at that time that that DNA of the samurai warrior, it was in me. So I wrote tirelessly every day to overcome traumatic brain injury. So and what came about of that was this book. It was first called The Courage of a Samurai. And then that was 15 and 16, it was on Amazon. And then 18, I signed a contract with Tuttle Publishing. And then in 18, then in 2020, just as the pandemic was coming down, the book was released. And so that book is now an international has been translated into German and Arabic. So I'm very excited about that. And it just tells about the principles of the samurai, because a lot of people know about the battles, but not that many people know about the principles that guided the samurai. So it was published in 2020. And since that time, I've been able to go to Japan. When I was in Japan in Kyoto and in Tokyo, I was able to go to a book sign there. And that's really interesting because there's no fanfare. It's just you sign books and you take pictures and that's it. But at least I can say, oh, I went to Tokyo and went to Kyoto, and that was wonderful meeting those people. So we can go to the next slide. I'd like you to all have this. We can send it out if you would like the recording, we will send this out to you. It's the Code of Bushido, and it's a moral framework for your life. And it entails, or it includes, courage, integrity, benevolence, respect, honesty, honor, and loyalty. And it's something that you can download and frame it, and it's a good reminder of how to live your life. Good ethics never go out of style. This is the Code of Bushido, the kanji for it, the way of the warrior. Here's another slide about the Code of Bushido. Again, you see courage, integrity, benevolence, respect, honesty, honor, and loyalty. And you know, those helmets are really heavy. When we were in Kyoto, we went to the Samurai Museum and donned the samurai, their helmet and their sword. The armor is actually made out of that kind of almost like styrofoam, but the helmet is really heavy. And so you can get an idea of what it was like, but their actual armor was very, very heavy. And we saw many examples of that when we were in Japan. So if you want to go to the next one. And this is also another Code of Bushido. If you'd like that, we can send that to you. You can't see her, but my VA, Nell, is in the Philippines, and she designed this for just because she likes to design and make things. But I really like this one, and I noticed that towards the bottom, you see the black and red. So it's really very interesting. So today we're going to talk a lot about gi, or integrity. And when you think of integrity, what comes to integrity is so important. What comes to mind to you? Is there anything that you might think of when you think of integrity? Anything? Well, I have a few quotes. And this one is by Chune Sugihara. It says, do what is right because it is right and leave it alone. Meaning that just do it and leave it alone. And I've spoken about Chune Sugihara. He's the first person I spoke about in this, or wrote about in the book. And he was the consul general from Japan to Lithuania right during the war. So that's a story that if you continue coming to these webinars, you'll learn about him. And Webster defines integrity as the quality or state of being, sound moral principles, uprightness, honesty, and sincerity. So that is integrity. And we all want to be friends with and do business with those people that have integrity. So I wrote also about Michi Wegland, who actually brought the issue of the proper euphemism for it's not being detained. It really was incarceration. My parents were there and they told me about it, and going in these places and the barbed wire all around and the tanks going around the circling the camp. So it really was not, you had to stay there, because if you wanted to leave and you started leaving out of the gates, you'd be shot. So that's what happened back then. But they went through it, and they, like amazing people, and they made the most of it. Some people say shigata ganai, but I think that that they made the most of it, and they wanted their children to know that that make life as normal as possible. So they had baseball teams, they had, they did dances, they had schools. So they've tried to make it as normal as possible. But it doesn't sound like a fun time to me, but they did it. So we're talking now about the late Senator Daniel K. Inouye. And this up here to the left is his family crest, which is called a kamon. Oops. And the next one is a Medal of Honor that he received. He was really decorated and very well-respected person. So that's why I wanted to talk about Daniel Inouye today. So we can go to the next slide. And I wanted people to know about his time in the U.S. Army. He was part of the 442nd Regimental Combat Team during World War II. And this was given to me from his organization, because it still lives on. And he became a lieutenant in the Army, probably because of his education. But he wasn't one of these that say, okay, go out there and fight, boys. No, he was out there on the front lines. And so that's why I chose him, and wanted to share about his life prior to becoming a U.S. Senator. He didn't just sit back and then become a U.S. Senator. He fought in battle. He proved that he was a leader, because he didn't just say, well, go out there and fight, guys. He went out there on the front line, and that's how he got injured. And so he was so injured, and he's lost so much blood that he almost died. Almost passed out, but they took him into the infirmary, and he didn't want to go. But if he hadn't gone, he would have died from the loss of blood. And so he goes there, and he convinced them to amputate his arm, because had they not, he would have died from a loss of blood. And so the soldiers came around and wanted to console him and talk to him. And he says, well, guys, he says, did anybody call the war off? And they go, no. He goes, well, get out there and fight. And so that was his attitude. He was more concerned about them than himself. But had he not had that arm amputated, he would have died. So my hat's off to him. He proved that he was quite just an example, laying down his life. And the interesting thing, I don't know if you know about this or many people know about it, but there was a bit of a rift between the Japanese on the mainland and the Japanese in Hawaii. I don't know if you know that, but the Japanese in Hawaii, because they were the majority in Hawaii, and they didn't face a prejudice like they did in the United States, like my parents did, and people on the West Coast. So the Hawaiians did not understand that until they went to one of the camps, and they were just having a great time. And there was actually some rivalry between them. And they said, well, after they went to the camps and on the way back, they were silent because they didn't realize what the mainland Japanese faced. And so they became much more of a unit at that time and started to understand them better. So that is Daniel K. Inouye. And because of his bravery, he earned quite a few medals. So if we can go to the next slide. Well, I will tell you a little bit about his scene, but this is he was born in 1924. That's right, actually right between my mom and dad. And he died in 2012. And they say that the last word that he said was aloha. He was, in my opinion, he was an example of what integrity is. And because of his service, would like to share with you what he earned. He earned 2 Purple Hearts, a Bronze Star Medal, Distinguished Service Cross, which was upgraded to the Medal of Honor by President Clinton in 2000. And he received the Presidential Medal of Freedom awarded posthumously in 2013. So he was always one that was for both sides of the aisle. And because his arm was severed, he could not become a doctor, which he planned to do. He went to law school and became a senator and never lost a race in his life. So he served over 60 years and quite distinguished. He was, in my opinion, just amazing example of integrity, and not only integrity, but I can think of so many things like respect and honesty. And people that knew him, that had met him, said that he was an amazing person, very humble and not braggadocious when he could be. But he showed courage, he showed honor, integrity, and he didn't, how do I say that? He didn't brag about himself and he didn't puff himself up, but he wanted to serve the people, and especially people like the Jewish people. There was a bond between the Jewish and the Japanese. He wanted to, and actually he's fought for the underdog, like the blacks and the Japanese Americans, because the Japanese, unfortunately, experienced a lot of prejudice. And I know that because of what my parents told me, but they overcame that. And he really led the way and was very well respected and honored in the United States. You want to go to the next slide? And because of him, unfortunately, this was posthumously award. They did this airport after he passed away, but so when people come in or out of Hawaii, they will know and remember Daniel K. Inouye. You can go to the next slide. I'd like to tell you about my master classes coming up. It's going to be 5 weeks, and it's going to happen very soon. It's going to be like, I'm going to make an irresistible offer that you won't be able to say no to, because it's going to be my first beta testing coaching program. And so the first part is Ikigai, like I shared. I have an ebook that goes with it and a workbook, because there's a Venn diagram and you figure out what your purpose in life is. And many people don't know that. And it can also change. Like when you were a high school student, your Ikigai is different than it would be now. The next one would be about the Code of Bushido. And there's going to be a workbook for that. We can't go through all of the Code of Bushido, but I'm going to send my book. Let's see. Can you see it? I will send that book to all the participants so that they have their own copy of the book. And then the last part is Gambaru. And I'm going to have an ebook for that also, and a workbook, because if you can have a great plans, or you can have all this, great plans, and you have your principles, and you're an honest person, courageous, have integrity. But if you don't complete it, and that's Gambaru, is you do it until it's finished. You don't just go do it halfway. And that's what helped me get through traumatic brain injury, because I was many times I was just felt hopeless. Like, this is too hard. I don't want to do it, but I knew I had to complete it, because otherwise it was like, I didn't want to be reading at a 7th grade level and just have that to be part of my life. I would have been very unproductive. That's what it is. And the cool part is this, what I love about this is I took this picture, I believe in, let's see, 23. In 23, I took that picture in 23. And it was hard to find a time when you didn't have, it wasn't crowded with people. So I found a real short window of time, took the picture, and that's that. And then the other one was taken in 19 when I went to Kyoto to plan the trip, but 20 came and COVID came. I couldn't go. So anyway, a person on the trail took that picture of me. So that will be the master class. It'll be a lot of fun. You'll learn so much, and hope you can join. You'll be hearing more about that soon. So the Kodo Bushido can be your anchor in a sea of turmoil and a guide through the maze of life. So sharpen your sword and let the journey begin. Go to the next slide. So I'd love to have a virtual chat with you, and you can click there, but we'll also add that when we send you the recording. And I'd love for you to set up a time. And I'm low key. No pressure. You don't have to bring out your wallets or anything. Don't be afraid of just having a great time. And I love connecting with people, and especially after I've overcome so much, reading at 7th grade level and overcoming prejudice, and hated being Japanese, but now I love it. I'm so happy and thankful that I am, and proud of my background. I love it. It's just, it's my happy place when I get to go there. I've been there, I think 13 or 14 times, and I plan to go there in December with my 2 older grandchildren. We're going to go there because he wanted to come to Japan. He goes, I would like Grandma and Grandpa to take me there sometime. And so I said, well, Kenji, just pray about it. Maybe it'll happen someday. And so when it happened, I thought, oh, I remember saying that to him, and I'd forgot about that for a long time, but he didn't forget about it, but I kind of forgot it. So we're going to be going in December. I'm so happy. I love Japan. It's my happy place. The food is just, you can even go to the 7-Eleven and have good food. It's just like, and the food is so much more reasonable, and it's so much better than it is here in the United States. So it's really my happy place. And I'm doing another tour in, let's see, April, May. So that will be exciting. We're going to go to Kyoto and Takayama and Kanazawa. So instead of having coffee, let's have tea. That's Japanese. And I don't know, this is FYI, green tea is not grown on those terraced fields that you see, where they have these really large fields and many terraced steps. They're grown in smaller batches, and actually they have the covering over the top so that it doesn't burn them. They don't want the leaves to burn, because then it won't be good anymore. They choose the first five leaves of the tea, matcha tea, and then the rest of it goes to a different type of tea. So that's why matcha tea is very expensive, is because it is like the premium. and it's very good. I visited, and we've gone both times to Uji, which is the green tea capital of Japan, and had matcha tea, and they have matcha noodles, they have matcha ice cream. Everywhere you go is tea. So it was very nice. We actually saw a tea field, and like I mentioned, it has the covering over because they don't want it to burn. So we actually got to see the women pick the first 5 leaves and then just leave the rest of it for the, shall we say, a second grade tea. But it was fun. We did the tea ceremony and had a wonderful time in Uji, Japan. So we can go to the next one. So I want to encourage you, never, never, never give up, because had I given up, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't have been able to write a book, and that's what helped me get over traumatic brain injury. I wouldn't be speaking to you. I wouldn't be getting to travel. So never give up. You are worth it, and so are your dreams. And so that's what I help people do, is find out what their dreams are, how they can fulfill it. There's nothing more I love doing, is just helping people find their purpose in life. And as a former educator in the prison system, I know what it's like when people don't know their purpose in life. And that's why I think there's a lot of crime, because people are aimless. They don't know what they're supposed to be doing. And I would share with the women, let's find out what you're meant to do. What area do you want to work in? You want to work inside, outside? Do you want to work with people, or you want to work by yourself? Just find out what is good for you, and then you won't be coming back here. That's a nice way of saying, don't get in trouble. Don't come back here, because I said, you deserve so much more. Life has so many opportunities, and here in the United States, you can find it. Because if they were prisoners in other countries, they would probably be found guilty, whether they're guilty or not, and not have the ability to find a different life. Of course, there's some things that they can't get into, but there's so much more that they can do. And that's what's great about this country, is that it's like endless compared to other countries. Because I've seen prisons in other countries, and they're horrible, but not here in the United States. So I want to encourage you, never, ever, ever give up. And so here's my contact information. I'm Lori at loriwhaley.com, and I have a website, and my book is on Amazon. And it's actually, I don't know if I mentioned, it's also in German and Arabic. And if you're on Facebook, please join me in the samurai community, because we post about samurai information. And there's one person who's a prolific artist that has beautiful, mostly probably oil paintings. He shares those on our Facebook page. And LinkedIn, I'm Lori Sagawa. So that is what I want to share with you today. And we will break out for the for the virtual time, and we'll end it with that. So thank you for joining us, and we will have a more private conversation, because we don't want this going all over LinkedIn and YouTube. So thank you for joining us, and please contact me, because I love sharing this, and I would love to help you. So that is all, and please stay Jocelyn and Sandra, and we will have more of a private conversation. So that's it for now. Mata ne. Until next time, I'll see you around, and I'll see you on LinkedIn, see you on YouTube. So we can stop the recording now. So thank you so much, Anil.